Today I'm going to talk about the Luxman-L 507Z integrated amplifier. Those of you who've been audiophiles for a long time will probably be familiar with Luxman. It's had a storied history in high-end audio, but hasn't always been as widely distributed as some other high-end products with brands that we're more familiar with. I think that's unfortunate because Luxman has had a tendency to do its own thing, to walk to its own drummer, and I think that thing that Luxman is about is something that many people are looking for and would appreciate. I heard it in spades in the L507Z, so I want to kind of unpack what I believe one of Luxman's things is and why this amplifier, even though it's $9,000, might be the one for you. So the L507Z is 110 watt per channel integrated amp. That's into 8 ohms, 210 watts per channel into 4 ohms. It's a beautifully crafted, traditionally styled, reminds me of the best equipment we saw in the 70s, let's say. Heavy weight, 55 pounds, integrated amp that I think works very well in small spaces. But the thing it does is it conveys a sense of Japanese craftsmanship in the sonic signature that it delivers. So we can think about craftsmanship in terms of build quality and the metal work and all of that kind of stuff, and that's on display here. Don't misunderstand, but there are a number of high-end Japanese companies that do a thing that I think really benefits from Japanese culture. There's not a reason you couldn't do it someplace else, but that thing is to focus on sonic purity. And I'm going to particularly emphasize an element that I heard so distinctly with this integrated amp that I just want to call your attention to it because it might be a thing that you've been looking for a while. You might not even have known you were looking for it. So let me describe it. I'm going to call that quality grainlessness. It's not a particularly beautiful word, but when we listen to especially individual instruments, that could be human voice, that could be violins, that could be solo guitar, there's often a sense that there's a little bit of an edge or roughness, or that the music is composed of individual particles that you can't quite hear, and yet you sort of sense that they're there. What the Luxman does is it kind of removes that sense, and it makes the listening experience more relaxing, and it makes the music sound more real, even though the subtlety of the grain you were previously hearing was kind of at an almost subconscious level. So that tonality, that grainless tonality that the Luxman 507 delivers is, when you hear it, it's just, on many kinds of music, it's just a wonderful thing. I listen to power pop, where it's not maybe the most significant thing, but the sense that the instruments were there and in real space, and sometimes when an instrumentalist went off and played a solo, that the solo was real, was really helpful. But you get to string quartet music, where you often have solo violin or solo viola, or some of the slow movements of major symphonies, or even, as I found, the opening movements of some Mahler, early Mahler, and you'll have a few violins playing, and that purity of tone just gives you a poetic beauty that I think is much closer to what the composer intended. Same thing is true on jazz. I listen to Dave Brubeck, and the drum tonality with this amplifier was outstanding. Uh, there are sections of some of the tunes on Time Out that where you have kick drum, and you can just hear the skin tone and the resonance, and the detailed accuracy of the drum kit is just, it's really impressive. You realize you haven't quite been hearing it with all the veils peeled off, and the sense of the drum head as a single unified object. So that removal of grain, I think, is a really big deal, particularly when you couple it with something that I think the L507Z does very well, which is I don't think it's getting there by faking it. I think this is a lower distortion amplifier than what we're accustomed to, at least those of us who listen to a lot of products that are not at super stratospheric prices. Yes, you could consider $9,000 to be semi-stratospheric, but in a world of $100,000 preamps, I think we're far from that region of the atmosphere. Anyway, you can make your own judgments about whether the value for money is there. I personally think it is. But what you get here is so beautiful, so musically powerful, that you begin to realize that specifications just aren't anything. 110 watts per channel or 220 watts, 210 watts into 4 ohms is nothing to sneeze at, but you can get a lot more power for this kind of money. But this level of purity and just beautiful conveyance of what I think was the original artistic intent is something that isn't that easy to find at this price point, and I found it really moving and very enjoyable. So if you're shopping in this kind of price range, and if you have relatively efficient speakers, I'd say 88 to 90 dB efficiency, and you're using your system in a small to medium sized room, I think this will be more than enough power for you. The amplifier is very dynamic. It doesn't fake what it's doing. It's not adjusting the tonal balance to get that purity. I think it's really delivering it through special low distortion circuitry and probably very carefully chosen devices that are included in the circuit design, and probably a heck of a power supply. Having lifted this thing, there's some metal in this amplifier. But getting there without faking it, without adjusting the tonality to make you think it's doing something marvelous, but just actually doing something marvelous, is a wonderful thing. I really enjoyed it, and I highly recommend you check it out. I hope you've enjoyed this review. I also hope you'll come back for more. To do so, please subscribe if you click on the notifications button. In addition to more of our review videos and interviews and audio basics coverage appearing in your feed, you also get notified when we post a new review, and I think you'll really enjoy what we're doing. So thanks for watching.